During the Cold War, when paranoia was at an all-time high, the U.S. government started a program so secret, so disturbing, that they eventually ordered all the files on it to be destroyed, just wiped from history. But they didn't get them all. And today, we're going to dive into the story those surviving files tell. This is the story of Project MKUltra, a very real, very terrifying program where the CIA turned its own citizens into unwitting test subjects, all in a quest to weaponize the human mind.
To really understand the horror of this, you have to start with the people, the actual human beings whose lives were shattered. That was the voice of Esther Schrier, talking about his mother, Esther. Her story starts with a decision that any one of us might make, but it led to a place no one could ever imagine.
So, picture it. February 1960. Esther Schrier, pregnant with her son Lloyd, checks into a hospital. Her family thinks she's getting the best care money can buy. I mean, this was a prestigious place. But instead of care, she walks straight into a nightmare. She became a patient in a place they chillingly called the sleep room. For 30 straight days, Esther was kept in a drug-induced coma. They only woke her up for 3 feedings and to use the bathroom. And all the while, a speaker hidden in her pillow was playing a message on a loop over and over and over. By the end of the month, the results were horrifying. According to her own medical records, she was, in their words, completely depatterned. She couldn't speak, she couldn't stand, she was a shell of herself. And that was the whole terrifying point, to see if they could literally erase a person's mind.
It's just a mind-boggling question, right? How could something so awful happen, not in some back alley, but inside the walls of a respected hospital? How is that even possible?
Well, the answer is as simple as it is chilling. Esther Schrier wasn't just a patient. She was a test subject, a human guinea pig in a top-secret CIA program she knew nothing about.
The program's code name was MKUltra. It was born out of this intense Cold War fear that the Soviets were developing mind control techniques. So the CIA decided it needed its own program, not just to catch up, but to get ahead, to figure out how to actually control human behavior.
And, what's so wild is reading the official language. This definition comes straight from the Senate hearings that investigated all this. Notice how broad it is. Chemical, biological, and radiological materials. They were looking at anything and everything that could be used in secret ops to control people.
And here it is, the actual cover page from that Senate hearing. Project MKUltra, the CIA's program of research in behavioral modification. This document is the smoking gun. It's the proof that all the horrific stories weren't just conspiracy theories. No, this was real enough for the U.S. Congress to investigate.
So let's talk about the scale of this thing. Because as awful as Esther Schrier's story is, she was not alone. Not even close. The program was enormous, and it basically turned the entire country into one big, unethical laboratory.
Under the big umbrella of MKUltra, the CIA ran 149 separate sub-projects. 149. Each one was a different experiment, a different angle on trying to control the mind. Just think about that number for a second.
And the research itself? It's a terrifying list. They looked into everything from hypnosis and knockout drugs to brain concussion studies and biological agents. But the most important part, the part that was built into the program's DNA, was covert testing on unwitting U.S. citizens. That wasn't a mistake. It was a feature.
And they didn't do it alone. The CIA secretly funneled money through front organizations to 80 different institutions across the country. We're talking universities, hospitals, even prisons. Many of these places had no idea their funding was secretly coming from the CIA. They were just turned into unwitting outposts for these experiments.
So if this was all so secret, how on earth did we find out about it? Well, the story of how it all came crashing down is almost as unbelievable as the program itself. It involves a deliberate cover-up and one single lucky break.
So in 1973, when investigators started sniffing around, the director of the CIA ordered every single MKUltra file destroyed. And for years, everyone just assumed the full story was gone forever. But then, in 1977, because of a Freedom of Information Act request, a clerk stumbled on 7 boxes of financial records that had been misfiled. They were a treasure trove. They had the payments, the projects, the people involved, and it blew the whole cover-up wide open, forcing a brand new Senate hearing.
So what was the justification? Well, the CIA claimed it was all for national security, to defend America against the Soviets. But the Senate committee that investigated all this, they saw it very differently. In their final report, they called the program exactly what it was, a demonstration of a fundamental disregard for the value of human life.
Now, the program officially ended decades ago, but its story's far from over. The legacy of MKUltra is still with us. It's left behind this trail of trauma that's been passed down through generations, and it even influenced some of the darkest practices of modern warfare. For the victims and their families, the fight for justice has been absolutely brutal. This is a quote from a letter the Canadian government sent to the families of people experimented on in that Montreal hospital. Just listen to the language. They're making payments on compassionate grounds, but they accept no liability or negligence. It's the classic non-apology. It's basically saying, here's some money, but we're not admitting we did anything wrong.
And the damage just rippled out. It didn't just end with the person who was experimented on. It destroyed families. It changed lives forever. Children grew up with parents who were strangers to them. That kind of pain gets passed down. And for many of these families, the fight for real accountability is still going on right now.
And here is why this isn't just a history lesson. All those techniques they were testing, sensory deprivation, psychological stress, drug-induced states, those ideas didn't just go away. Reports have shown that the research from MKUltra actually laid the foundation for the enhanced interrogation techniques used years later in the War on Terror. The echoes of that sleep room can be heard in the CIA's modern-day black sites.
And all of this leaves us with a really big, really unsettling question. MKUltra is a chilling example of what happens when fear and secrecy are allowed to run wild, with absolutely no accountability. It forces us to ask, in the name of protecting a nation, what is an acceptable sacrifice? How far is too far? And maybe most importantly, who gets to decide?